Welcome back to TalkBacks, where revenge doesn't need to be loud to be legendary. In this episode, we're diving into 3 stories that prove sometimes the quietest people hit the hardest, especially when you mistake their silence for surrender. First, a young woman tries everything to get her neighbors to stop blasting music at 2 a.m., but when nothing works, she finds a solution from above, literally. Next, a tech bro thinks he's being slick, juggling his girlfriend and an intern until the girlfriend gets access to the work laptop and forwards the receipts straight to HR. And finally, a daughter excluded from her family's inheritance thinks she's lost everything until the lawyer pulls out a sealed envelope her relatives never saw coming. Let's get into it. They say you can't choose your neighbors, but you can choose your revenge. For 6 months, I lived beneath the loudest couple on earth. Think EDM at 1 a.m., karaoke battles at 3, and morning after arguments with enough profanity to wake the dead. I live in a mid-rise building in the city, 5 floors, decent soundproofing, or so I thought. I'm a freelance editor. My entire job revolves around silence. And for a while, I tolerated it. I tried noise-canceling headphones, white noise machines, even moved my bed to the living room. But nothing helped when they decided to host Friendsgiving at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. I tried to be civil. Not politely, they ignored it. Left a note, they laughed. Filed a noise complaint with the building, nothing changed. One morning, after a particularly rager-inducing night of bass drops and beer pong, I caught the guy in the hallway and said, "Hey, man, can we talk about the noise?" He laughed in my face. Literally laughed and said, "It's a city, sweetheart, get your plugs." That was the moment something in me snapped. Instead of yelling, I smiled. And I went upstairs to a unit that had just gone on the market. You guessed it, the apartment directly above theirs. I called the realtor that afternoon. The place had been sitting unsold for months because of noise complaints from below. Oh, the irony. The price was lower than market. I made an offer that day. It was accepted 48 hours later. They had no idea I kept my current apartment and sublet it short-term to a friend. Meanwhile, I quietly moved into the new unit upstairs with a single goal: reverse engineer their own chaos. Every morning at 6 a.m., I dragged a heavy chair across the hardwood floor. At 2 p.m., I dropped a yoga ball repeatedly for stretching. At 5 p.m., I played ambient horror movie sounds on loop. Subtle but unnerving, distant whispers, creaking wood, low rumbling. At midnight, I practiced walking in heels across the floor for 20 minutes straight. When they banged on the ceiling, I banged back. They complained to the landlord. The landlord emailed me and I replied, "Oh, that must be the couple below me. They've had noise complaints before." 2 weeks in, I got a knock on the door. It was the girlfriend. Her smile was strained. "Hi. Are you stomping or something? We keep hearing out like a sounds." I blinked. "Oh, I thought it was you guys. Maybe this building just isn't very well insulated." She looked confused. I looked innocent. She left. Then I escalated. I found out their bedroom was below my kitchen. So I bought a treadmill. I didn't run on it. That would be too obvious. Instead, I turned it on empty. At random times. Let the motor hum and vibrate for 30 minutes. They knocked. I didn't answer. A month later, a for rent sign appeared on their window. 2 weeks after that, they were gone. I never even learned their real names. Now, I sleep like a queen. My original apartment's rented out to a quiet college student. The upstairs unit, the one I bought just for revenge, I converted it into a soundproof editing studio. So in the end, they were right about one thing. It is a city. But you don't always have to shout to be heard. Sometimes you just need to buy the floor above the problem. Revenge doesn't always need to be loud. But it sure sounds sweeter when it's subtle. And speaking of subtle moves, our next story's about a woman who knew her boyfriend was cheating and waited for the perfect moment to let HR do the talking. You'd think someone smart enough to get hired at a Fortune 500 company wouldn't be dumb enough to cheat at the office. But here we are. I met Josh during onboarding. Same training group. Same floor. He was the charismatic one, big smile, Fast promotions, one of those guys who used synergy unironically. He asked me out after 2 months. Things moved quickly. 6 months in, we were living together. A year in, we were talking about adopting a dog. I wasn't naive. I'd had my share of lessons, but Josh felt different. Until he didn't. The signs started small. He got protective about his phone. Started working late but never bringing anything home. And he mentioned a new intern on his team, Lexi, a little too often. Still, I didn't jump to conclusions. I'm not that girl. But then, the intern waved at me in the lobby and said, "Oh, you're Josh's our roommate." She didn't say girlfriend. She didn't say it like a mistake. She said it like a warning. I went cold inside, didn't react. Just smiled and said, "No, I'm his lived in IT department." She blinked. I walked away. That night, I waited for Josh to fall asleep. Then I opened his work laptop. Why? Because I'd set it up for him. I knew the passwords. I knew the sync settings. I knew where Slack cached files and how Outlook saved drafts. And oh boy, did he leave crumbs? He'd been messaging Lexi for weeks. Flirting during meetings. Sending her playlists. Telling her I was just someone he lived with. Promising he'd figure things out. There were screenshots. Photos. A draft of a reservation he made for her birthday, which happened to be the same weekend he told me he'd be at a conference in Denver. I didn't cry. I copied everything to a USB drive. Now, I could have confronted him. I could have yelled or cried or thrown the laptop across the room. But Josh didn't just cheat. He did it at work. With an intern. On company devices. So I made a new folder. Titled it Security Concern, Confidential. And I emailed it to HR. Anonymously. 2 days later, Josh came home early. He looked pale, stunned. Saw it he'd been suspended pending an internal review. Apparently, HR had received credible documentation that he'd been engaging in inappropriate relationships with subordinates, using company equipment for personal matters, and violating multiple ethics policies. I acted shocked. He said he had no idea who could have sent it. I suggested maybe Lexi. He went silent. 3 weeks later, he was fired. Lexi's internship wasn't renewed. She never looked me in the eye again. And me? I accepted a new job at a competitor. And when I left a note in Josh's drawer. This IT department doesn't do repairs. We do clean installs. Do I regret not warning him? Nope. Some people need to learn that betrayal isn't a private mistake. It's a professional liability. He used company time to cheat. I used company policy to end him. And if you think that's cold, wait until you hear what happens when a woman gets cut out of the family inheritance. Only to find out her grandfather had one last secret left just for her. You don't really know how your family sees you until there's money on the table. And in my case, they saw me as the one they could cut out and no one would notice. I'm the youngest of 4 cousins. My mom was the problem child in a very image-conscious family. I didn't grow up going to the country club. I didn't get a trust fund at 18. I got a prepaid phone and a part-time job at 16. My grandfather, Pops, was the only one who treated me like I belonged. He used to call me the only real one in the whole fake parade. When he got sick, I was the one visiting 3 times a week. Changing oxygen tanks. Reading the newspaper to him. He told me once, when I go, don't let the snakes take everything. I thought he was being dramatic. Turns out, he was right. After Pops passed, the family had a private meeting with the estate lawyer. I wasn't invited. They told me it was just logistics. Then I got an email, a cold, formal message. As per the final will, no assets were designated for my full name. No explanation. No phone call. Not even a line about how much Pops loved me anyway. Just nothing. I called my aunt. She said it was Pop's decision. I called the lawyer. They said I wasn't a legal client. I asked for a copy of the will, silence. For a week, I walked around like a ghost. Then I got a call from an unknown number. It was Mr. Halberd, Pop's personal accountant. He said, "You don't know me, but your grandfather left something with me, privately." He gave me an address. Said to bring ID. The next day, I drove out to a small office above a diner. Halbert was waiting with a thick folder, a set of keys, and a single envelope, handwritten, sealed with wax. Inside the envelope was a note. I knew they'd find a way to cut you out. So I made a separate plan. The folder included deed papers to a cabin property no one in the family knew existed, account access to a private investment fund with my name on it, instructions for transfer, notarized and dated a year before his death. The kicker? A letter to be delivered to the estate lawyer after the official will was read. The letter, which I saw later, said, "To the family, if you're reading this, it means you chose greed over decency. So the one person who never asked for anything gets everything you tried to keep from her." Within 48 hours, the family was in chaos. Turns out Pops had funneled half of his remaining wealth into that private fund, and none of them had a legal claim to it. They tried to challenge it. The lawyer shut them down. The cabin alone was worth more than most of their cash splits. My cousin called me screaming. My aunt texted me, "You manipulated him." I blocked her. Now, I spend my weekends in the cabin. It's quiet, surrounded by trees. Pops used to fish there in his 20s. There's a photo of us on the mantle. I look at it sometimes and remember what he told me. You can't choose your family, but you can choose what kind of family you keep. They cut me out like I didn't exist. But he wrote me in like I was the only one who ever mattered. Sometimes the real inheritance isn't money. It's the proof that someone saw you when no one else did. And sometimes, that proof comes with keys. Friends, thank you for tuning in to this episode of the ProRevenge series here on TalkBacks. I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss another revenge story. See you next time.